Did you know that before 2014, Midwest FurFest was held on the weekend before Thanksgiving, before changing it to the weekend after? Here are 40 things you didn't know about Midwest FurFest. The event might have officially started in 2000, but its origins can be traced back to DuckCon 3 in 1994 as a furry track of the program. DuckCon is a science fiction convention held every June based in the Chicago metropolitan area starting in 1992. It's a short name of DuPage County Convention. As the years went on, the furry track of the convention grew, and by 1999 at DuckCon 8, it attracted roughly a third of the attendees. Unfortunately, this resulted in problems as they were unable to expand that program without impacting other parts of the convention. This resulted in the furry program being spun up into a new convention called Midwest FurFest. Despite the departure, the transition was smooth, and DuckCon provided services and volunteers to ensure the new convention was a success, with Robert King founding it and serving as the chairman. The first ever Midwest FurFest in 2000 attracted 388 attendees. DuckCon continued to maintain some furry programming until its closure in 2015, but it quickly became clear that they would be overshadowed by the new convention. From there, Midwest FurFest started its slow but eventual rise to the top. Between 2000 and 2019, there wasn't a year where they lost attendees, and only two where they grew less than 10%. 2009 and 2019. In most years, their attendance increased at double-digit percentages, and at one point between 2001 and 2002, it increased by 34%. It grew so fast that in 2017, it overtook Anthrocon, the largest furry convention in the world. Midwest FurFest announced it had 8,771 attendees, compared to Anthrocon's 7,554. Despite what some may believe, Midwest FurFest is not located in Chicago. Rather, it is based in Rosemont, Illinois, although it is located in Cook County, where Chicago is located. However, the convention hasn't always been there. Over 20 years of existence, they have changed locations. In the first 2 years, they started at Arlington Heights. After 2002, they moved to Schaumburg and remained until 2007. From there, they were briefly at Wheeling for another 2 years before eventually settling in Rosemont in 2010, where they remain to this day. You probably have never heard these places before, and for good reason. They're all small villages, each having less than 100,000 people, with Rosemont having less than 10,000. That begs the question, why not Chicago? It's not because there isn't a convention center. The city houses McCormick Place, the largest convention center in North America. In fact, it might be a bit too large. There are a lot of different factors that go into determining where conventions are located, and furry ones are no different. At first, they started at the Sheraton Chicago Northwest when they were at Arlington Heights. From there, every time they changed locations, they changed hotels. At Schaumburg, it was the Hyatt Regency Woodfield. Wheeling had the Westin Chicago North Shore, and since Rosemont, they stayed at the Hyatt Regency O'Hare. It's only recently, back in 2019, when they transferred to the Donald E. Stephens Convention Center, presumably because the rising amount of attendees was overwhelming the hotel. There are many convention themes over the event's existence. They usually revolve around the location of the event, like 2018's Fly to Furry Skies, being inspired by O'Hare International Airport. Sometimes there be common topics that many people know put into furry form. Other times there is no theme, being the case in the first 4 years of the convention's existence, and a period between 2015 and 2016. You might have heard of the notorious room lottery. Due to the popularity of the convention, hotel rooms have to be given out in a lottery system to allow everyone to have a fair chance. This policy was publicly announced in 2019 when the convention transferred. We've talked about the convention, but what about the buildings located at? The Donald E. Stephens Convention Center provides 840,000 square feet, or 78,000 square meters of available space. Along with Midwest FurFest, the convention center also hosts other events like trade shows and even other fan conventions, notably Anime Central, Anime Midwest, and Where's the World Chicago. Before these conventions ended up at the center, they were all previously hosted at smaller hotels in Rosemont, next to the O'Hare International Airport. Anime Central and Anime Midwest in particular were also at the Hyatt Regency O'Hare for a couple of years, before eventually moving over to the convention center. You probably know Midwest FurFest as a furry convention, but it's also a business. The parent company of Midwest FurFest is Midwest Furry Fandom, Inc., a 501c3 nonprofit corporation. They even have a website where they showcase some of their most thrilling information like legal jargon, board members, and meeting summaries. Fun! Like with every other nonprofit convention, Midwest FurFest has to file its taxes. Stick with me here, I promise this is interesting. According to ProPublica, in 2019, Midwest Furry Fandom, Inc. made $1 million, with nearly all of it being spent on the event. It wasn't so easy though. Out of the 18 tax filings between 2002 and 2019, there are 5 years where expenses are higher than revenue. Since 2014 though, they have made more money than they spent. What's even more fascinating is that none of the board members took a single dollar in pay. You can tell they want to make a good convention experience for everyone that attends. Of course, with all the money that's being collected, charities are also there to raise money at these conventions. Over the event's 2 decades of existence, they have raised $760,000 to local animal charities. If I asked you to name a furry convention chairperson, who would it be? I could almost bet that you would say Anthrocon's chairman, Dr. Samuel Conway, aka Uncle Kage. As for Midwest FurFest, it would be Data Hawk. Unlike Anthrocon, Midwest FurFest works a little differently. Around every 2 years, a new chairperson is elected to run the event, usually someone who is a member of the board of directors. Uncle Kage is known to be active at social media, having built up quite a sizable following on Twitter. In contrast, Robert King isn't as well known, only having a small account for Affinity, but have made a similar impact online. He coined the term started Fursuit back in 1993, when King started the Fursuit mailing list, a website dedicated to teaching how to make these costumes. This ran for 6 years, eventually being shut down. Despite this, the impact the website had on how fursuits are constructed today can't be understated. Along with this, they had a fursona and fursuit to go along with it. It's a skunk named Samantha Kemple, based on Ken Sample's works. He made it because he liked Ken's art style and wanted to make a fursuit off of a character that many would recognize. Along with this, he made suits for his wife, but she got all the attention even though she credited him. I wonder why that sounds familiar. Sadly, all good things must come to an end, as he stepped down as president of Midwest FurFest back in 2016, being succeeded by Toby Morano for the next 2 years, and currently being headed by Cheetah Goletz since 2018. We're now in the top 10, and speaking of 2018, that was the first year they had more than 10,000 people, being the first furry convention to do so. You know Midwest FurFest logo, right? It's a raccoon, and there was a previous one before they settled on this. At first, they had a more traditional art design from the 2000s, although it's unknown who made this artwork, it ended up becoming the basis for the current logo, being redesigned in 2015. Those are their mascot, with a reference sheet to match. They've been featured on Twitter posts in June 2018, usually to highlight the topics presented. It doesn't stop there though, as they also been in memes and even on merchandise. You probably know the Midwest FurFest Twitter account, @FurFest, but they also have a less well-known one called @Midwest FurFest. How it happens a bit strange. The FurFest account, registered in 2008, had the original handle of @Midwest FurFest. In April 2018 though, they changed their name to the current one in order to shorten it and remain consistent with their other social media accounts. The old handle was transferred over to another account in order to prevent impersonation. This ended up becoming useful months later when the original account got locked due to it being under 13 when they first registered. Keep in mind, this is a business account and not a personal account. Hours later though, the account was reinstated. Despite its initials being MFF, the convention wanted people to use hashtag MWFF and eventually FurFest. This is because the MFF acronym is already used by other events, which got confusing on Twitter. This is likely the reason behind the rebranding, as they even say under the Twitter bio to tweet it. If I asked you to pick Midwest FurFest's most infamous year, you would probably say 2014, and for good reason. On December 7th at midnight, a noxious odor was spreading on the 8th and 9th floors of the hotel. It turned out to be a broken jar of chlorine power in the stairwell. This resulted in the main hotel being evacuated, with some attendees still in their fursuits. 19 people were admitted to the hospital for nausea, dizziness, and other medical concerns. Although thankfully, none suffered any long-term health consequences. This made news not only in Chicago, but across America. Despite the major setbacks, the convention continued to run like normal, although the criminals behind us were never caught. Someone who was caught though is Milo Yiannopoulos. He's a very controversial person who holds views that can only describe as hateful. Having been canceled by basically everyone on the internet, he attempted to attend Midwest FurFest 2019, going so far as to make a persona and trying to host a panel called The Politics of Fur. Furries, of course, didn't take this lightly and demanded the convention to ban him. Midwest FurFest announced that they'd be investigating the situation, and a day later put out a statement saying that they're banned from attending. Finally, the impact of Midwest FurFest. The friends it's made, the artists that have made a name for themselves, and the public image furries have built are all undeniable. It doesn't only impact those attending, but also the city's economy. The amount of money spent on plane tickets, hotel rooms, and at small businesses, not only by the attendees, but also the convention staff, generates jobs and tax revenue that can be reinvested back in the city, continuing to be attractive for future conventions and tourism for years to come. Midwest FurFest is looking to be one of the best furry conventions of 2021. Better than what happened at BLFC. Check out what went wrong with BLFC 2021 and how the convention staff played a role in it.